I have a friend who works in a human resource department for a large company. And part of her job was to interview people who were applying for management positions. And her routine was to take the person out for dinner. And if the person salted their food before tasting it, they didn't get the job. The rationale was that the person just acted out of habit, out of routine, and didn't really address the needs of the situation at hand. Salt was in the news this week. The government now has told those of us who are over 51, and there are a few of you out there, that we shouldn't eat more than a half a teaspoon of salt a day, including that which we get through processed food. And yet, salt is front and center in the gospel story this morning. This continuation of the Sermon on the Mount that we began last week. Jesus tells his disciples, and you and me, that we are to be salt and light. Today, we see salt as something that needs to be used in moderation. But in the time of Jesus, salt was really vital to one's existence. In the days before refrigeration, salt was essential. It changed what it touched. It kept it from spoiling or rotting or corrupting. Salt purified things. That's why in some cultures, salt is rubbed on newborn infants. Or those of us baptized before 1970 had salt put in our mouth during the baptism ceremony as a sign of purification and strength. In short, salt really gave some zing, or gives a zing to that which it touches. Light was also important in the time of Jesus. We take light for granted. Just put the switch and it turns on. And it's only in a time of a storm when we lose light that we remember how vital it is just to move around in the darkness. In the time of Jesus, light was usually from an oil lamp, small oil lamps that had a wick in it. And they would put the lamp on a stand high up in the room. It was kind of smoky, but it gave light to everything that was around it. Our danger is to see the Sermon on the Mount as kind of a history lesson as to what salt and light was. But what we really need to do is go beyond the image to see what the meaning is behind it. If we are to be salt of the earth, that means we need to make a difference. We need to give life some zing. Really, it has to do with our community, our schools, our circle of friends. We need to give it strength and protection and, in a sense, purification. If you're a student or a member of a Boy Scout troop, you really need to make a difference in those that you associate with. You need to make this community, this group, a loving and caring and serving group. You are the Christian. You are the salt that needs to make a difference in that relationship. We hear a lot about bullying in schools these days, and the Christian is expected to be the opposite, the one who is inclusive rather than exclusive, charitable and kind towards others. We are all called to be light. Light in the sense of being lifted up, not to put emphasis on ourselves, but to let others see. To let others see what is the right and just thing to do. If you're in business, it's to see what is ethical what is just, what is fair. Or if you're in management, it's to see that the rights and the dignity of your workers are protected. Using salt before tasting just might be problematic. But for us, who are called this day to be salt and light, we hear Jesus giving his Sermon on the Mount 2,000 years ago, but giving it to you and me today, that we are to be this salt and light.